Will you pay more because of new emission rules that look set to pass at the IMO? Well, the answer is yes. You probably will. What a short episode that was. I'm only joking. I'm your host, Mike King, and this is the Freight Buyers Club. And today we're looking at new IMO fuel emissions rules and what it means for your supply chain costs. Because you might have seen that last week there was rather a big meeting of the International Maritime Organization in London. The IMO, of course, is the UN body that sets the rules for the safety and security of shipping and the prevention of marine pollution by ships. And guess what? The Freight Buyers Club was there. We got to interview IMO Secretary General Arsenio Dominguez, and I'll play that interview in a moment. But first, some context. The IMO met last week for the 83rd gathering of the IMO's Marine Environment Protection Committee, the MEPC it's known as. The MEPC was negotiating about how to get shipping to net zero by 2050. There was quite a few things on the table. And they came up with a pathway. In fact, it was the first time any industry has come up with a comprehensive agreement on global carbon charging. So, well done to the IMO. I mean, it's not really an easy task to get the world to agree on anything these days, is it? The container shipping industry was rather pleased. It's been at the vanguard of pushing for these regulations and investing in new, greener capacity. The World Shipping Council was there representing lines, and CEO and President Joe Kramek said last Friday that liner shipping has already moved to kickstart decarbonisation with nearly 1,000 renewable capable ships set to be on the water by 2030. He went on to say that a global regulation was necessary to be able to deliver those renewable fuels at a commercially viable price. So the outcomes from the IMO mean global regulations can now begin to leverage this investment by container shipping carriers so they can meet these decarbonisation targets. Okay, so the details, a bit more depth. The deal agreed will be formally adopted in October and then enter force for large ships over 5,000 gross tons from 2027. As Better Sea explains here, a bit better than I can, the incentive to switch to green fuels will be increased over time. Now, the big thing here was that it wasn't a carbon levy that had been under discussion. That would have been basically a flat rate on greenhouse gas emissions. That didn't pass. Instead, we had a compromise. It's a redistribution model that progressively penalizes harmful emissions over time and encourages the uses of alternative fuels. So this is a dual approach. On the one side, we've got a global fuel standard, which is designed to lower the annual greenhouse gas fuel intensity of marine fuels. And then on the other, you've got a greenhouse gas pricing mechanism that requires higher emitting ships to pay for their excess pollution. It's a bit similar to the FuelEU scheme that was introduced at the start of this year, in that ships that are exposed to penalties obviously have higher OPEX costs, defined by the burnt fuel type that they use, while the ships that perform better will have the chance to monetize their efforts. The consensus is that over time, carriers will probably pass on higher fuel fees to shippers via surcharges, in much the same way that we saw with low sulfur fuels when they came in a few years ago, or that we've seen this year with FuelEU, or we're seeing with the EU emissions trading system. So for some shippers, this probably means that maybe the agreement didn't go as far as they had wanted. But for others, maybe it went further than they would have liked, because now they might have to pay a little bit more. So it really does depend on how important it is you to pay for cleaner shipping and cleaner, greener supply chains. How all this pans out in practice by ship or slot booked, we'll have to wait and see. This is what Arsenio Dominguez, the Secretary General of the IMO, told me when I asked him about some of these things.
Arsenio, shipping is the first industry to agree a global pricing mechanism for emissions, so congratulations on that. Can you try and explain roughly what this means and when for manufacturers and retailers and cargo owners who rely on container shipping? Some are super excited about this because they want to pay whatever they need to have a green supply chain, and some are concerned that this is just going to be a higher cost in a world of tariffs and trade wars.
From the moment that we started developing these measures, we carried out an analysis of what could be the possible negative impact that this will have in shipping and in trade. And all that information was put to the test in relation to the agreement that we have right now. It's not an intention, of course, to create additional burden to the industry, but it is recognized that in order to save the environment and protect it, there is an investment that needs to take place. And this is where these mechanisms are actually going to help us in collect the necessary revenues to support this transition, keep it as a just and equitable transition, assist the member states, particularly developing countries that are in need of the support required to keep a harmonized and equitable playing field.
Can you explain the timeline for this rollout? It's progressive, isn't it? Does this mean that you might see higher shipping costs related to these rules, say from 2027, and they would then increase thereafter? Is that correct?
We always keep our measures under review. So right now, the entry into force, once this agreement is adopted in October, will be in 2027. From there, we will start collecting the information and the data on the emissions from all the ships trading around the world that need to comply with the rule, and then the revenues will be collected for 2028. And then we will start evaluating the increase in, of course, that input into utilizing more renewable fuels. We will be supporting the development of those fuels as well, and that is all part of the transition.
And the US position on this, I understand that the US delegation didn't take their seats at the assembly this week. Could you comment on that? And also, can you comment on this view that seems to be coming from the White House that this would be an unfair tax on shipping or on the US flag fleet and they wouldn't comply with it? And how does that work in practice?
We are adopting in October a pricing mechanism. So I just want to clarify the language that we use. And of course, we welcome, and I welcome and encourage all the member states to participate in this regulatory process, because that gives us the opportunity to engage collectively, to look at what the concerns are and how we're going to address the concerns from all the member states. We're taking the first step when it comes to the decarbonization of shipping, and we're looking into the analysis of any impact that this may have, but always with the recognition that we are a responsible organization when it comes to our commitment on safe, secure, and environmentally friendly shipping.
Arsenio Dominguez, IMO Secretary General, thank you for joining me today on the Freight Buyers Club.
Thank you.
Okay, touched on it there. The politics. Saudi Arabia was led the charge against the carbon levy. China ended up siding with India and Europe to pass the agreement. The US delegation withdrew, and as the Lodestar's Charlie Bartlett reports, the US claimed the proceedings were promoting unproven fuels and the redistribution of wealth under the guise of environmental protection, and threatened reciprocal levies against any nation that charged US flagged ships under these rules. Yeah, there's not that many US flagged ships, so how important this is, but they are trying to build up the fleet, so that could be quite important in the future. And where's that word reciprocal? I swear I know that word from somewhere. So I'll leave it there. So that's the politics, that's the regulations, and that's the Freight Buyers Club IMO new emissions rule explainer finished. Please do follow us on the bell below so you can get an alert every time we put some new content out there. I'm Mike King. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll be back soon.